Hey everyone, welcome to Know Your Gear QA. What is this, 130? So hopefully you guys can see me okay. I'm just waiting for everything to update as we see. Let's see. Here we are. Let's go back. And what do we got going on? How's it going, everybody? Okay. So how was everyone's week? I hope it was good. Mine was really busy last week. This week, it was not as busy, but a lot of stuff got done, which is great. I see already a ton of questions and already comments on the forum already. But before we start, I want to do a couple announcements. The first thing is I just want to thank everyone who helped. We talked last week about Micah, the autistic. I always get it backwards. And they did a drive to raise some money. They were selling a guitar to raise money to give lessons to autistic kids. And looks like the guitar went for $790. Pretty good take on that. And hopefully that's what they were looking for. It looks like it was a good amount. So I want to thank anyone who was involved with that. It's always nice to hear good things and now know more people are going to be getting involved in music. So that was cool. I'm excited about that. And then also another thing real quick, a lot of times I get these comments on these live shows whenever whatever we talk the longest about, it seems like that's what ends up being the title of the show. And a lot of people are like, hey, they can't find it. So this is just a reminder at the beginning of the show that a couple things. One, I index all these QAs, so all the questions will be in the description down below, so you can go right to each question or anything that we talked about subject matter wise on every show. Just want to let you know that's a thing. It takes me about an hour and a half to do that, so hopefully you use it if you need it. The other thing is also remind everybody that this is actually watched or streamed more on iTunes than it is on YouTube. So this is also a podcast audio version only on iTunes and SoundCloud. I was going to say Instagram, SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever. I'll put some links down below too. So just to let you guys know, more of you consume this as an audio podcast than you do as a visual live QA. So reminding everybody about that. And this show is, I don't want to say sponsored, but it's funded by the patrons. So we'll do that. We'll announce some of the new patrons at the end of the show. But as always, I'd like to remind everybody that's who makes this happen every week. I want to thank the patrons for supporting. And let's get into some of the cool questions that I saw. The first one was somebody asked me about a PRS. There was a Harley Benton PRS copy, and they asked me if I would be interested in doing a Sharp Max. I sadly enough, unfortunately, I'm sure it's because you have one and you'd like to get it sharpened. I am doing a Sharp Max. What ended up happening, if you guys watched my Harley Benton Fusion guitar review, you will see that I mentioned there that the green Harley Benton PRS copy was damaged. I fixed the neck. The neck was cracked. I fixed the neck. I didn't film that. I don't know why. I didn't think to do a video. I was just going to fix it, and then I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this guitar. Give it away to somebody. But I've decided I'm probably going to do some kind of makeshift Sharp Max. This won't be a full Sharp Max video, but I'm going to do something. We're going to try to figure out how to give it away, give it to somebody who could use a nice guitar. What's funny is the guitar, even damaged, plays great. It's the irony. I would like to get it swapped out, but I just don't think that's going to happen. It's not in the cards, so I'm just going to fix it up and we'll give it away. So I am doing a Sharp Max, so to speak, with that. I don't know if it'll be an official one. I should have filmed the crack neck repair. It was a pretty simple one though, but still, I'm sure you guys would have liked to see it. Don't worry, there's more content like that on its way. Okay, we got some super chats. Hold on, I'm just going to pen those real quick. And what else? Let's see. Oh, somebody else also asked me if I saw the new Silver Jubilee or the Jubilee Marshall Studio head, 20 watts. I did. I saw that. I have the Silver Jubilee 25 watt head. And it looks like they've repackaged this, switched it to 20 watts. I'm curious to see if it's different inside. The aesthetics are different. So, any thoughts on that? Only thing I can tell you is this. I got rid of it. I had the JCM 800 studio head. I had that amp, and I did a comparison video with the Silver Jubilee. And in the video, I think I preferred the 800 over the Silver Jubilee. It was tough because they're both different. I like them both for different things. But this is what's funny sometimes about getting to do a review. A conclusion I don't know if I would have came to without having you guys out there. Somebody then asked me, well, how does it compare to your Friedman Runt? And actually what happened, in my opinion, the Runt sounded better than both the Marshalls. So I got rid of the 800. I kept the Silver Jubilee just because I like the way it looks. And, you know, I don't know, it's cool. It's cool looking. So it's in the hallway right now. I use it from time to time. It's funny. I was this last weekend. I had some friends over and we were going through all my amps, and none of them liked that amp. And every time I have friends over, no one likes that Marshall amp. But I like it. But and so yeah, I ended up liking the Runt better, and then I ended up liking the JJ Junior more than the Runt. So that's how that went. So there you go. A couple Marshall fans, I'm sure, are going to be unhappy with that comment and unsubscribing. I'm still a Marshall fan. I'm just becoming more of a fan of their logo than their amps, it looks like. So, just how it works. Okay, what else? What else? Hold on. Pan Shooting says, who is your red friend on top of the Fender amp? That right there is the Cosmic Hippo. If you are a Bella Fleck and the Fleck Tones fan, like I am, I've seen Bella Fleck and the Fleck Tones 3 times. I think I've seen Bella Fleck once, and then Bella Fleck and the Fleck Tones 3 times. Saw him once with Stanley Jordan. It was great. Anyways, that being said, I'm a huge Bella Fleck fan, and so I bought that at one of the shows. I probably bought that in 90-something. No, seriously, it was probably 2000, 2001, 99, 2000, 2001, around that time. It's been a while. So, yeah, that's what it is. It's a Cosmic Hippo. And then this over here, in case you're wondering, is a giraffe. Has no relevance other than my daughter gave me a giraffe one day. I'm not even sure why. So I thought, hey, symmetry. If I'm going to put a hippo on one side, I need a giraffe on the other. There you go. That's what that is. I think you know what it is because this is the room I film in, and maybe it's instinctive for everyone, like cubicles, to put stuff like. I tend to put stuff. I have stuff over here too. It's like you know, you just can't help but stack things on things. So maybe that's what it is. If this is my cubicle, that's the crap I put on top of my cubicle walls that everybody seems to be annoyed with, but you do it anyways. Oh, Brian said the Super Jube was already 20 watts. It's just called the 2525. There you go. See, there you go. So when I saw the video, at first I was like, oh, something new. And then as I looked at it, it just looked like they repackaged the old product with a new facing. Again, nothing wrong with that at all. I just didn't think it was a new amplifier, but I don't know. I didn't learn much about it. But like I said, I love my Silver Jubilee 20 watt head or 25. It's 20 watt, I guess. 20 watt head. I do. I really like it. It's a fun amp. I like it. I run a Boss DD3 delay pedal through the effects loop. And man, it's cool. I get like these Joe Bonamassa Slash style tones, you know, that I like. Like I said, so I like it, but a lot of my friends, actually not all of my friends, I got to find a friend that likes that amp because everyone who comes over my house tells me that that's my worst amp. Scott Miller did a super chat for no reason, just to do it. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that so much. What else? Where is... Oh, hold on a second. We're getting sidetracked. The Drunken Scoundrel. That's a good name. Says, where is your amp top rubber shark? I don't have that. I got my own. I got Funko Pops. Those of you who follow on Instagram probably know I have... Somebody made me a Funko Pop. So, here. You know what? Let me grab it. So this is Slash. Whoops. This is the Slash. Oh, man, this is so bad. This is a Slash. This is a Funko Pop. I didn't know what they were until somebody sent me one. This is a Funko Pop. This is Slash. And this is a Funko Pop. This is me. They even got... Oh, where's it at? Oh, let's find the camera. Look at that. They even got my bass. Perfect. The flame in it and stuff. And they got my haircut. I mean, you got to admit, that's uncanny how good they did the haircut. So, yeah. So I have this stuff just everywhere. By the way, a viewer did that for me, and that is cool. He hand-painted this and made this. So, pretty sick. What else do we got going on? We got some super chats. Hold on, guys. I got super chats stacking up. I'm trying to get to both sides. And I just want to mention real quick, Scott Miller and Jay Clover just did a super chat for no reason. Man, you guys, thank you. That was really cool. Scarmo Guitar, because you're Philip McKnight. That's why. Well, wouldn't that be cool if that worked at a restaurant or somewhere? And if they like, here's your bill, I'm like, I am Phil McKnight. Oh, that's cool. Thank you, guys. You guys are being very kind. I appreciate it. Scarma Guitar, if you guys haven't checked out, we did a giveaway, or I should say they did the giveaway. All I did was pick a name. They got the guitar. They did pictures. I'll share that next Friday on the live show. I'm switching. Right now I'm using the OBS software. When Google Hangouts, stopped being used on YouTube, I had OBS software. I switched to it. I like it. There's some things I don't like, and one of them is I can't share as much stuff with you guys, so I'm switching software. So next week I'm going to share some stuff. I'm going to share the winner with you, and they sent pictures of them with the guitar. They're very excited. Thank you to Scarma Guitar for giving away a guitar. That was pretty cool. So, and they're working on a project with a guitar right now, and if you check out their channel, you don't have to wait for me to announce it. You'll see some of the stuff of that now. The Smelly Cats Jazz, another good, wow, I love these new sign-ons instead of like weird license plates. This is cool. The Smelly Cats Jazz. Your content helps save me $100 when buying used. Thanks for that. My question is, have you tried the Made in Switzerland, I don't know what this is, Livingston blades? I have to Google that. Sorry. So the answer is no. I don't even know what it is. Trying to see. It's a guitar, it looks like. Is it blade guitar? No. It's a choice of hardware. Is it pickups? It's got to be pickups because I'm seeing the word blades. And when I pull it up, the first person I see is Kirk Hammett. So it looks like a guitar. They answered the question, I haven't, but I'll index it so you guys can see what I'm looking at right now. And I won't share it right now because, like I said, it stinks with the OBS software that I can't share that stuff. I have to preload everything I want to share with you guys in OBS. I like the old way of doing it when I could just go and share to a website. I know the podcast people didn't like it, but I would try to be more vocal in describing what I was seeing. So I haven't tried that, but... Smelly Cats Jazz. Also, by the way, I'm glad I helped you save some money buying used. One thing that I've been focused on more lately, if you guys notice, is talking about used gear more. When you start your YouTube channel, used gear is how you save money to get gear and talk about it. Let's be honest. When when I started my channel, for those of you that are starting channels or having channels that are newer, that's how you try to find gear. You can save money by used, and as your channel grows, companies will send you gear, and sometimes they become the thing that they send you is what you talk about, especially because people are looking for that. And I enjoy used gear. Most of the stuff I own, in fact, it's probably think about this. I think. I bought the Dane Electro behind me used. Normally I have more used gear behind me. I bought the Supersonic used. And that Eddie Van Halen guitar, whoops, over there, that I bought used as well, that I can't point to. See, I got, somebody said last week that I finally got the pointing down, and that's what ruined it. They messed it up. Let's see. Zach A says, this week I got a weird Fender branded Pawnshop guitar, but I can't tell if it's real. If someone put a Fender decal on a Squire, anyone heard of a solid body Pawnshop Fender made in Indonesia? No, there wouldn't be a Fender made in Indonesia. Now, again, there's so many guitars, there's so much stuff. There's just no way, any person could be on top of this. But as far as I know, the only Fender branded electric guitars in recent years, let's say the last 10 years for sure, okay, that were not made in Mexico, Japan, or, well, let me put it this way. There would be a couple models that are obviously Japan. There's a few that are made in Mexico and U.S. There's a couple that are made in Korea. They were made in Oh, you know what? It is possible. It's possible it's made in Indonesia. Here's why. I don't remember any of the pawn shops made anywhere besides Mexico. That's what I remember, the pawn shops made in Mexico. However, there is like a classic vibe, almost like a Squire classic vibe. There's a classic vibed Fender guitars that were made in China. They made a Tele and a Strat. And the Strats were like single humbucker, and they were like mahogany body. It was like trans black. But here's what I don't know. I would imagine any of the guitars they were making in Korea, they moved them to Indonesia. So it's possible. I just don't remember that particular model. But what I can tell you, Zach, is if you send me pictures to askknowyourgear, I can tell you, I can do my best to try to look at it. I did that before. I asked some people to send some wiring to me, and it worked out for some, and a couple. I know we all have good cameras on our phones now. Just try not to make sure that there's glare on it. It's hard when I'm looking at glare. Just try to take a couple pictures, right? Just send me 2 or 3, so that hopefully one of them works out. I can see what I'm looking at. If anyone else knows, that'd be interesting too. But as far as I know, I've never seen a Fender made in Indonesia. McDingus says Fender pawn shops were originally made in Japan. I remember, okay, so there was Japanese one. So, Japan and Fender's okay. Anytime you see Fender made in Japan, there's all kinds of models over all kinds of years made in Japan. That's for sure. There are like set neck, Telecasters, all of the Fenders that the way I described it, that look like Schecters. There is some Fenders that look like Schecters. They're always set necks, like the Showmaster, something like that. Again, trying to do it off memory. Those are made in Korea. So, Indonesia, I wouldn't be shocked at all. They move around a lot. And what's really tough is, here's what's really tough. What's really tough is that when the pawn shop stuff came out, that was during the recession. It was like the weirdest time when I was a Fender dealer, because there was so much stuff coming from so many places. Think about this. During the recession, things I can tell you, the first Eddie Van Halen launched amps were made in Vietnam. Then they were immediately shut down, and the mini heads, they were made in Vietnam. The first batch was. Then the second batches and stuff, they came from Mexico. So you saw a lot of this stuff. They were just changing sites. What I remember about the recession the most, the thing that stuck in my head was, I remember waiting for a shipment of guitars from Fender forever, and I was really desperate for it. You know what I mean? And it was acoustics, and that's what's funny about this. And we're waiting and waiting. It kept getting pushed back. And then they finally got them, and they had to source them to a different factory. And I don't know if it's true. I just remember laughing because they said, well, what happened? And they said, well, the factory stopped making guitars, started making furniture in China. And the only reason I'm telling you the story is not because of whether or not that's true or not. What's funny about that was it happened 2 or 3 other times with 2 or 3 other companies around that time. I just remember out of everywhere, people would start telling me, manufacturers would be like, yeah, we're not getting our shipments. The factory closed down and is now making something else because the recession. They weren't making enough money in guitars they were getting out of it. So there's all kinds of weird stuff out there. So you have to kind of like check and look. The hard part about what you said, is that the label looks like a sticker on the Fender, or it looks like a water decal. It doesn't look very good. That is real common with real Fenders. That sometimes the logos don't look right. So what I can tell you though is this will help, is that if you call Fender's customer service line and you give them the serial number, as long as it's a current FMIC production piece, in other words, nothing predating before they acquired the company in the late 80s, right? They'll be able to authenticate it as a guitar. They'll be able to tell you what it is. So I've done it. I've done it as recent as a month ago. I had to call and authenticate a guitar for a customer. So somebody says, in Vietnam, Matt? Yeah, if you're talking about the EVH stuff, yeah, they were made in Vietnam, the first couple rounds of amps. So you could have a 5150 mini head, the 50 watt heads. And if you look in the back, it'll say made in Vietnam. So the rest should say all made in Mexico. Yeah, Todd Flower says he's pretty sure the Indonesian pawn shops were Squires. That is how I remember it too. I don't remember. You know why? Like I said, I don't think I've physically ever seen a Fender electric guitar in Indonesia. So that's why I'm saying that's what throws me for a loop. If you would have said China or Japan, I might, because I've seen that. So, okay, hold on a second. I know you got some super chats. I'm trying to get some new ones. Okay, Jeff Fleming says, greetings, Phil. I just bought a used Carvin DC 127 with a beautiful AAA Saga 4A flame maple top. One of the best feeling necks I've ever owned. $200. What gives? Why are these so cheap in the aftermarket? Carvins are coming up in value because of Kiesel. Kiesel's been pulling up the value. But let's be very clear. If you know the whole story between Kiesel and Carvin and how that happened, Carvin was Kiesel. I have a whole 5 things you don't know about Kiesel that kind of talks about this. The reality is Jeff Kiesel and his father, they really rebranded and built that company to a new level. I mean, I hate this. Now it's the 3rd time I have to tell the internet how wrong I was. When that happened, I was wrong. Like I said, I thought the rebranding was not going to be a good move. I thought it was like the sign of, hey, they're going to have to be Kiesel guitars now instead of Carvin. But the reality is the Carvin branded guitars were just not... not resale value was horrible. Okay, so I normally tell you guys I won't tell you stories from the store because I don't want to upset customers, old customers, because again I like a lot of my customers as friends. This story I don't mind telling you because it's not really about the customer. It's just about some bonehead thing I did once, and it involves Carvin, and it's an interesting story. So I once had a Carvin come in on trade in the store, and it was exactly what you're talking about. It was like a 5A top, mahogany body, neck through, ebony fretboard. It's a beautiful guitar, right? So I took it on trade, and I remember looking at looking it up, seeing what they're going for, and they just weren't going for very much money. You could buy them for like $400, $500. So I told the guy who traded in. The guy who traded in actually knew me really well, and I said, I'm telling you, man, they're going high for like $400, right? And he's like, are you kidding? And so we looked together, and we both came to the conclusion that it was worth about $400, right? $350 to $400. So what happened was I tagged it. So what we did was I gave him high for it. I think I gave him 3, maybe 350, probably 3 for it, thinking I'd tag it for 4. And which is, it's not a lot of margin in that. And what happened was months went by, no one bought it. It sat and sat and sat, and marked it down to $300 just to get out of it. And what happened was, I'll never forget this. This is, again, sometimes when you're new, you're just not smart. I had a customer come in. They just were starting lessons that day, and they were coming in, and I used to talk to the people as they would wait for their lessons. And he's excited. He's got his first lesson guitar, here at the lessons, and he's like, hey, you want to see a really crazy cool guitar? And I said, sure. And he opens it up, and it's the exact same guitar that's on the wall in a different color. And he goes. He said he's in construction, and he did some work for somebody, and they said that instead of paying him, they trade him his guitar. And he goes, and he says, you'll never see a guitar like this. It's beautiful. And I looked at it, and without even thinking, I go, I have that exact same guitar over there. If you want, I can get you another color for $300. And what happened was he didn't say anything. He went to his lesson, he left, and he never came back again. He never came to a second lesson. And so the next week when he didn't come, I was like, hey, I asked the teacher, did you call him? Hey, what happened? And the teacher's like, yeah, I called. He didn't call me back. And I said, oh. And he goes, well, he did mention that something happened. And I said, what happened? He goes, well, I guess he mentioned he bought some guitar on trade, and he paid. So he traded the guy for $1,500 is what he paid for that guitar. And I guess I really hurt his feelings when I told him that I couldn't get $300 for the same guitar. So I didn't mean to insult him. It happens, but anyways, the point of the story is Carvins don't hold value for that reason. So they're good buys. That's what's great about them. So I say this all the time. Godins, you can get really great deals on Godins, some of the American Peavey stuff. And you know what? And just because people don't know about it. That's why, like, a lot of times when I do these videos, if you look in the comments when I do videos about used gear, you can see in the comments, people go, oh, well, it's not going to be a deal anymore because we talked about it. So if you're out here watching, just remember when you're watching my channel, especially, even though the channel's gotten bigger over the years, if you're new, and you're the first time to see videos and we talk about stuff like this, check it out before, people check them out. You can get smoking deals. There is nothing. That's a great, Jeff. So, $200 for an American-made Carvin is a killer deal, man. You're going to love that guitar forever. Unless you try to sell it. But you'll get out of it you'll get what you put into it. Cause like I said, 200's, that's a steal. And like I said, and Kiesel is really bringing the brand Carvin up as a whole. Zach says, this week I got... Oh, sorry. That's where I already did this one. Smelly Cat Jazz says, yes, they are guitars, boutique Fender copies. So he's talking about Smelly Cat Jazz was the guitar we were just talking about. Where'd it go? Which was the Levinson Blades. So it's a boutique Fender copy guitar. So kind of like Grosch. That's how I would look at that. Fender boutique copy guitars. To me, there's a whole series of those guitars. There's Grosch. There's obviously I think Sz is a boutique Fender copy. For those that and I don't know. I always picture in my head now somebody who has a Sz getting pissed off at me for that. But I'm sorry. That's what they are, and I mean that as a compliment. There are brands that just take common brands and make boutique versions of them. So that'd be interesting. I'd like to check them out. Gitbox 6 String says, thoughts on Ibanez Sz series? They seem interesting. Yeah, I don't, I'm pretty broken on the Ibanez thing. I like a lot of the guitars. I tend to stick with the RG styles, which is now the new AZs. If you see, I got the AZ right there. It's backwards. And the AZs to me are like the adult version of the RGs, right? The RGs are like fast. They're like sports cars. And this is more like the AZ is more of a practical type of guitar. It's not as shredder happy as a guitar. So, but the SE series is another brand, another series of Ibanez I like. I'm an Ibanez guy. I think I've talked about this. A lot of channels we watch on YouTube, some people are Gibson fans, Fender fans, PRS fans. I'm a fan of all guitars, as you can tell. That's why I always laugh when somebody says, obviously you don't like this guitar. And I'm like, well, obviously you haven't watched any of my videos. Let's put it this way. Looking at guitars I have, if I was a drug addict, I would be doing every drug at this point. You wouldn't be able to pigeonhole me. I very few guitars I can say I don't like. But that being said, the guitar that I wanted when I was a kid was an Ibanez, and you know what I mean? So that's why they kind of have a special place in my heart for that. Bob Crosby, hey, what's up, Bob? Says, hey, Phil, are you still doing your $3 telly upgrade? You're still doing it. With the 0.47 capacitor, and would you recommend using it with the Treble Bleed? Yeah, he's talking about when I did a video. It was one of my very first videos I ever did on my channel where I said, hey, I upgraded my telly with a $3, which now I think is probably $5. Talk about inflation. Orange drop capacitor at 0.47. Yes, I still put orange drops in most of my guitars. I just like them. So it's funny. I before YouTube, this is funny to me. Before YouTube, I would do things, upgrade guitars for customers, for myself, and and then when YouTube happened, all of a sudden people had like these opposing opinions, like, oh, you can't tell the difference between these capacitors, you can't do that, and I'm like, well, I still do it. It's $4, $3. It's a cup of coffee to make a guitar potentially sound better. I'm going to try it, and I always like the orange drops. So there you go. But yes, I still do it. But the next question he had was, would I recommend doing the Treble Bleed? Okay, so the Treble Bleed's a weird thing, and here's why. I have a bunch of Treble Bleeds that I wire up real quick. So, it's just two capacitors wired together. There's a couple ways to do it. Actually, no, I said two. Thinking about it, I think PRS uses one. And so if you Google Treble Bleed, you'll see this is a very easy mod. PRS uses it a lot. Ibanez uses it a lot. A lot of companies use it a lot. And it's funny, I'll just say Lawrence and I were having lunch one day, and he was saying he doesn't like the Treble Bleed. He removes it from all his guitars. By the way, Lawrence and I, that's one of the things that made us friends, was that he's an Ibanez guy too, by the way. We both are into Ibanez's when we were younger. And anyway, so back to that thing. I find I'm very particular about the Treble Bleed. I've installed in guitars and just hated it and put another guitar in it. And so here, oddly enough, some guitars absolutely I have to have it in guitars, and some guitars I can't stand it in there. So, it's up to the guitar. There you go. It's up to the guitar, which really means it's probably up to the electronics in the guitar. But I would love to tell you, if you go with these kind of pickups, do the Treble Bleed. If you go with these, don't. It seems to be just the sum of the parts, but it's an easy thing to put in, and if it doesn't work, take it out. T Mipseed. Sure. We're going to say T Mipseed. T Mipseed said, thanks for what you do. I've learned a lot. Thank you, buddy, for the super chat. And then the other super chats, let me grab some non-super chats. There's 740 of us, and I'm trying to get to as many questions as possible. Jason Gooding says, hey, Phil, what are your thoughts regarding Devil Cat amps? I played Devil Cat amps one time. It was at the Winter NAMM 2013. Sounds right. I'm pretty sure-ish. I remember because they were wearing flight suits. Devil Cat amps is also... is it AMG guitars? It's an acronym, right? It's letters, right? Anyways, the one I played was really cool. It was a really cool amp. They're a small company. They make them here in the U.S. I'm pretty sure RNA Music is a dealer for them. So if you do decide to check one out, I'd contact Ryan at RNA Music. Might as well give local businesses a plug. They deserve it probably more than anybody because they're good people. So that one experience with it was good. I'd never had a chance to try one besides that. So... but the one time I plugged it in, and you know what? They were in the bottom basement of the Winter NAMM, and I actually was early on a Thursday morning, and I could actually hear the amp. So, Jamie, how much fret buzz is too much fret buzz? Jamie, you will now understand what it's like to be a guitar repair guy. I need a shirt that says, in fact, I've been saying I'm going to make this shirt for over a decade. It just says, I know, low action, no fret buzz. Everybody always says to me, Phil, low action, no fret buzz. So how much fret buzz is too much fret buzz? Well, you know what's funny is this is literally the thing that can make me or an amp or a guitar tech crazy. Because it's discretionary. Everyone decides how much fret buzz is acceptable. Some players are 0, none, not even acoustically. You know what I mean? Not plugged into amp. They want no buzz whatsoever. That's fine. Actually, that's more than fine. But some players actually want low action and like I've had this. This is a true story. And so this is a customer who made me so nuts. We were actually good friends now because I either had to kill him or become his friend. So what happened was he came to me. I'll never forget this. He wanted 9-gauge strings, half step down, low action, no buzz whatsoever. And what ended up happening, this is before YouTube, what ended up happening was I had to decide either at this point, so I did what he said, because that's what you do first. You're like, okay, I'll just do it. Because at first I don't know what you're perceiving any of this as. You know what I mean? So I set up the guitar, and of course it's Sizzle Town, man. It's like, we call it bacon. It's crispy bacon. The guitar is just sizzling. Every note, it just sounds like a can of bees. And he's not having it. And what's funny, sometimes you get lucky and you have that aha moment where you're like, how am I going to talk to this person? Right? There's just no rational conversation to have. And I just out of nowhere, I said, what guitar do you have that's not doing this? So can I analyze this guitar? Maybe I can figure out why. And he goes, well, I don't have a guitar that does. They all do it. That's what drives me crazy. And luckily, that's how we became friends, because I decided at that point I was going to spend more time educating him or teaching him about it than I was about trying to adjust his guitar. And so what we ended up doing was he ended up going to 9 hybrids, so 9 to 46s. We got him to go there because he wanted to, and we got him to raise his action just a little bit more than the shredder height. And we, and also understand what's an acceptable amount of buzz. And so here's what's the great question, Jamie. Everybody's got a different opinion, but I will tell you what generally most players, as I hesitate because it's the internet, no, most players will agree on this. It means no buzz through the amp. That's really when people say no buzz, they mean they'll take if you want low action, right? If you want your action to feel good, and low just means the strings are close to the fretboard. If you want it to feel good and easy to play, and you want the action low, you have to accept that there'll be a little sizzle here and there on the notes. They buzz just a little bit, but not through the amp is ideal. Keep in mind, if you run tons of distortion, you know what I mean, you're not going to hear it as much. But the problem with buzz, and this is what the real symptom of it is that buzzing is physically the string And I'll use my Swiss Army knife as a fret. Here's my pin is a string. This is the fret. And as it's spinning, it's hitting the, I'm doing this so the mic can hear it. It's hitting slightly the fret. That's what's causing the buzz, right? And of course, because the string is spinning so fast, it makes a little clicking sound. The reason I'm illustrating this, even though most of you know exactly what I'm talking about, is because you understand that if you want sustain, buzz is your enemy, because every time it's hitting the fret, you're losing the inertia of the string. In other words, the spinning of the string, the sound. And so you'll kill sustain. The string won't spin as long. It won't sustain as long. So buzz is really a symptom of even if you run distortion, if you want notes to ring as long as possible, you can, buzz can kill that. But keep in mind, you can artificially put it back with compression, compressors and stuff. But back to how much fret buzz is too much. It's up to each player to decide, right? But generally speaking, most players don't want to hear any buzz coming through the amp, especially clean. But I would love to know your guys' thoughts. Let me know how much is too much. Like I said, I already know the answer because I get it every day. Some of you are going to say absolutely none. Some of you are going to say it doesn't bother you at all. My buddy Joe, you guys have seen Joe. Joe plays nines on his Les Pauls when his action is so low. It's ridiculous. And he doesn't care about buzz at all. It just doesn't bug him, which is great. You know what I mean? Whenever I would adjust any of his guitars, I would love it because he doesn't care. I just slam it on the deck, and it was great. My buddy Thor, who's an amazing player, whenever I'd have to do any adjustments for him, or he'd have me help him because he can do his setups too, just like Joe. But anytime I'd have to do anything for him, he likes his action high, so it was easy. So high action usually don't have a problem with buzz. If you have a high action and you have buzzing problems, then you probably have a neck issue. There's something wrong with the neck, needs to be adjusted. So on that's enough of that. Let me go back. Let me refresh. Hold on, I'm going to refresh my screen because I'm seeing outdated stuff. Okay. Odd says something. Says, does sustain even matter? Well, that is the question of the day to the fret buzz thing, right? If it can or cannot. It definitely matters to Santana. It definitely matters to David Gilmour, you know what I mean? I mean, sustain matters, you know what I mean? John Mayer is another guy, bending and holding a note and holding it for as long as possible is a big thing. I'm just saying this so you know, I don't mean to insult anyone ever when it comes to music. I don't think Yngwie really cares about sustain. He might, right? But I would imagine, before the note even rings out, he's on the next note, blistering through those scales. So I'm assuming Yngwie does not. And I know he does, guys, I know he plays notes and sustains them too, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, every player is different. I was just looking for an analogy, but so it depends on the player. So sustain really doesn't matter to me because I usually use a compressor on everything. And compressors that's why sometimes compressors are sustainers. That's why sometimes they're mentioned as either or. Larry John says he can't stand fret buzz. Yeah, what's funny is, so Larry, you'll relate to this. What I've learned is some people don't care about it, some players. The ones that do can actually get hyper focused on it to the point where the OCD kicks in and they go crazy from it. Not literally crazy, but and so like I said, when I'm working on guitars and doing setups, which is why, if you notice the Sharpen My Axe, this is the interesting thing about Sharpen My Axe videos. When people ask me, I got asked this once when I was in Germany. They said, what's different of those versus just doing repair videos? And I said, well, the difference of the Sharpen My Axe videos, in theory, is to really discuss more of talking about the player and what the player would want. And that's really a good technician, a good repair person, a good tech. I should say tech more than repair, because repair is just about fixing stuff. A good setup tech, is someone who really tries to figure out what you want and tries to make your guitar perform the way you need it to be. Which is why it's so important that you learn to do some of the setups and stuff for yourself, because no one is going to know what you're looking for more than you. So if you have a problem with buzz, you know what I mean? That's why it's important to understand the guitar, to understand where the buzz comes from. It's just not some magical thing that comes in and goes away. There's reasons why it's there. David Muniz says, hey, Phil. Oh, I love these questions. I was just talking. So David has got a question. Before I answer it, I thought about this as a great idea. What I was thinking about was, from now on, wouldn't it be cool if every time I do a review style video of the week, whatever I do that week, when we do the live show, if you guys want to, do you guys think I should take the top questions on that review video and then answer them on the live show? So David Muniz has a question. It was, hey, Phil, can you tell me more about the Tajima neck feel and all that? Comparable inequality Fender made in Mexico. Love the sounds you got. Thanks. And that was absolutely, I pinned a question. Somebody asked and I pinned it. That was a question that, again, I it's one of those things when you do a video, I just never thought I should have talked about the neck feel. Because why I didn't mention the neck feel? Because it didn't feel different. It is very much like the American Professional Strat to me, or the Mexican Player Strat. Somebody said in the comments of that video perfectly, and that's also pinned with it. It says, yeah, it's like that neck was slightly thicker. That's exactly how that would how we would point that out. I do have a Tajima made in China entry-level guitar here. There is going to be videos on that. In fact, the videos are already made, so it's a friend of mine, and you'll see why that's going to be probably way cooler than the video I did on the one I bought, which is the green one right there. But my point is, of the Tajimas I played, which I played a few now, I've played about 6 total of different models. The necks seem very consistent in the idea that the necks feel very middle of the road, not super thick, not super thin, definitely middle of the road, in line with what I would find my G&Ls and my Fenders to be like, maybe Schecters as well. Nothing crazy out there. So nothing to concern me that if you don't like seriously thick necks or thin necks, you would be put off by this. If you don't like the neck feel, you don't like the neck feel, but it's a very common neck feel. So they didn't create anything dramatically different. Okay, hold on a second. I got some pinned questions. Let me go back, pivot back, and it is, what do we got? Oops, got away from me for a second. Hold on a second. Dr. Marcio Anita. Is it a real doctor? All right, we're going to say you are. You put doctor on there. Doctor says, JM low output Strat, vintage 60, original 60, Pro with 59. So he's thinking John Mayer low output Strat, vintage 60, original 60, or Pro 59, Pro with 59. I think the question you're asking me, which pickups would I recommend? I would go with the original 60 set. I think that's the way I would go. Anything, like I said, I think that's not what John Mayer uses, but to me to get, because I've played this game, a lot of us John Mayer freaks have done this. I think a lot of players that like John Mayer really fell in love with his tones on his albums. That's really what you got. He's got great tone on his albums. Because the Strat sounds huge. And so what's funny is, if you watch, I've experienced this a lot with a lot of guitar players, okay? Which is what they use to get their sound sometimes isn't what you need to use to get their sound, right? If you want to get something like that. And with John Mayer, I found the 69 set of pickups from Fender got me the closest there, or any kind of 69-esque set of pickups got me the closest to his fatter, kind of rounder Strat tone. The Silver Sky, which sounds really great, and I love it. In fact, I was just playing it right before the live show. I love the pickups in that guitar. What's funny to me is I don't think that guitar sounds very John Mayer-esque in the way it sounds, but I love the way it sounds. It's brighter than what I would picture his sound to be. But there you go. Enrico says, thoughts on jam, shelving brands, and then Chinafying them when they bring them back. Randall seems to be the latest victim. So what he's talking about is jam. If you guys, I'll put a link in the index. I've done videos on who owns who videos. I did an update one. Jam was a company I talked about. Jam is a Canadian company. They own a ton of brands. Randall is one of them. So basically, US Music was a company that owned Washburn, Parker, Eden, which now is owned by Marshall, Randall, I thought there was another one in there. I'm trying to remember. It was Parker. His main ones were Parker. Oh, well, Oscar Schmidt. You know what I mean? All those brands. But anyways, there is a lot of shelving of brands from a lot of companies because the brands, it's not performing and it gets tough. And I think a lot of companies, what happened was before, and this is something that's probably interesting to talk about. If you look at the early 2000s, and again, this we could look years before that, but I want to talk about the early 2000s, before the recession, okay? Before the 2006, we'll say 2005 to 2007, 8-ish is the main part of the recession for the music industry. Before the recession, there was a lot of companies looking at how could they diversify and cut costs. And one of the ways you could cut cost is, you have a sales rep, they get in a car, you got to pay a per diem, you got to pay their expenses, you got to give them a commission, right? They're getting a piece of every dollar. If you're using, an external sales rep, if you have an internal sales force, there's a cost, of course, with that. You have your medical, dental, all that stuff. And what happens is they would send a sales rep to a store, and those reps could sell you their brand. Well, the thought became, what if they had 10 brands to sell? Because now the cost is fixed, right? Fixed costs are a big part of business, right? Makes perfect sense. If you have a building and you pay a certain amount of month rent every month, whether that building is open 24 hours a day or 10 hours a day is essentially a fixed cost when it comes to rent. So if you can get more hours out of the building, you can exponentially increase the amount of money you make against the cost, right? So that's what they were trying to do. They're like, hey, I send one guy to a store, and if the store is not interested in Washburn, he can sell Randall, and if they're not looking for Randall, they can sell Parker, and if they can't sell Parker, they can sell accessories, right? This is what led Fender to go down this path of multiple brands. So the more brands, the better. And everybody jumped on that bandwagon. Okay, so there's a lot of companies that did that. We're not just talking about, the wholesale suppliers. We're talking about all the companies would do this. What happened during the recession was, and so my little smirk and laughter is because I had a business through the recession. I started my store 1 year before technically the government says the recession started. Talk about great timing, right? And I grew my store during the recession, which was a very painfully horrible process to do. Because every day you have to rethink your business model or you die. So anyways, that being said, what happened with a lot of brands is they learned that in the new business model, which is smaller, less mom and pops, more big box stores, more online entities, because, we think of big online companies like Sweetwater and Guitar Center and Music Friend, which is Guitar Center. But, there's like Pitbull Audio, that's a big force on the internet. They, there's a lot of, they own Music Store Live now. There's more, especially if you shop a lot at Reverb, you'll notice all of a sudden, Chicago Music Exchange, there's big online entities besides the big guys. And so what the manufacturers learned is maybe not so much diversity. In other words, maybe focus the brands down a little bit. And then that way you can buy more of those type of products, which will get the cost down on those products and get, better deals and more margins. So that's what you're noticing. So when you're saying jam shelve the brands, what I'm saying is it's not it's a survival system. Everybody's just trying to survive this thing. I'm not justifying it. I'm explaining it. I never try to argue anyone's business model. It's the winners are always decided in the end, not during the when it's happening. So we don't know if it's a smart decision or not, or if they're doing something good or bad. But ultimately, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that this is inevitability. A lot of brands are going to go exactly what you said, Chinafying it. They're going to go to overseas. They're going to cut costs. They're going to do this stuff. Sometimes it's the only way to bring it back. On this live show, talk about this live show. This is episode 130. If you go to the first 60 episodes, that's how long ago it was. In the first 60 episodes, every week I was getting somebody used to hit me every week and go, hey, Parker's coming back, Phil, because I said Parker wasn't coming back. And they said, Parker's coming back. Parker's coming back. You're wrong. It's on their website. They're coming back. And I would say proudly every week, Parker's not coming back. Parker Guitars. And the reason is I already knew some of the behind the scenes, and some of the behind the scenes was that once you shut something like that down, and they let it get dormant for a year, it's impossible. It's really hard to bring it back. They can bring Parker back, but it's, like I said, it's not going to be like it was. There'll be either a really high-end, smaller amount of American-made guitars or all import guitars. So I think this is something you're going to see more and more with brands, shelving brands. I think we're very aware of it. There's like 10 brands you could probably think of right now, most of us, that are on the shelf, so to speak, getting ready to go away. And hopefully it's not a brand you like. So McDinga says, who isn't making amps overseas? Well, this is a trick question because first of all, it's almost impossible to make any kind of electronics or amplifier pedal without using overseas parts. So there. That being said, technically, you could almost say no one technically because of that reason. However, I do know that Mesa Boogie does not make an import Chinese line of amps. That is for sure, and they source as many of the components as from the U.S. as they possibly can, and or England, because obviously they get their selections from England. But in fact, it's getting so out of control. If you notice, it's almost impossible to find an amp that says made in anymore. Do you notice that? PRS amps say assembled in. A lot of amps, a lot of pedals say assembled in USA, and not made in, because essentially it's they're just putting them together here. And that becomes the first coffin nail. So, that's what killed Ampeg amps. Ampeg amps slowly, more and more, they would buy more components overseas to the point where they're pretty much assembling everything from import parts. And then when they looked at the cost, the most expensive costing amp was the assembly process. And they're like, well, if we have it assembled overseas, we can cut the cost. And that becomes that road. It's literally as silly as it sounds. It's the Star Wars, the path to the dark side. The first step, as you will, is shaking the hands of the devil. As soon as they decide to go with import parts, they're going down that road. Now, when I say devil, I'm not saying imports are the evil. What I'm saying is if that's something you don't want to happen, if that's what you think is not what you want, if you want to build products in your country, as soon as you make a decision to go to a cheaper country to make those decisions, you're taking a path that it has an inevitability of being overseas. I can name 20 brands that just within the 20 years were made in the U.S. and now made overseas, like Ampeg. Sabine tuners, remember them? They were made in the USA. They are now made overseas. I mean, there's tons and tons of brands like this now that are like that. I did a video of that, talking about that. Brands that do that. Reverend guitars were once made in the USA, now made overseas. And again, none of that I'm saying means quality. Some of you guys are going to say, oh God, the old stuff was great and the new stuff's junk. Again, if you have a personal experience like that, then great. But I'm not speaking of a personal experience, so I'm not going to tell you that the new, stuff is not as good as the old stuff. I don't know. I just know that the change happened. So, okay, let's go to some super chatted questions. Hold on real quick. Hold on a second. Hold on. Wow, you guys were going crazy. All right, there it is. Let's see. Waterford Giant says, thanks, Phil. I actually have a real question. He says, when Fender B Jr. and Fender, so is it, I don't know, B Breaker, Blues Breaker, Blues Jr. Okay, so he's just saving time. So the Fender Blues Jr. and the Fender Blues Breaker, 7-watt, attached to a donor ABU switch, no hum with the Katana 50 whatsoever. I am losing this question. Oh, hum. Sorry, Waterford. We got the question. Here it is, everybody. What he's basically saying is that when he's using his Donner AB box, he's getting a hum through his 2 tube amps, but he's not getting it with his Katana amp. Yeah, that's a simple fix, buddy. You need a better AB switch. I'm laughing because I have one right here. This is the one I highly recommend everybody use, the Big Shot ABY by Radial. So I have a good relationship with Morley, and their AB boxes, including their new ones, are very good. And I use a Morley AB box, and I never use the Donner, but I know it's like I've seen Fender has one like that. But this is the Mamma Jamma if you don't want to deal with problems when it comes to using an AB box. These are made in Canada. It's funny that it was right here. Radial, I'll be waiting for my check anytime soon. Anyways, I've owned this thing now for, 15 years. I wonder if it tells me what year it is. 15 years, made in Canada. So as far as I know, it's still made in Canada. Everything's the same. The reason why I recommend this AB box, they have a more expensive one too. That one's cool too, but I use this one. This will fix the problem. It has a transformer in it. What you need is a load against the signal that you're not using. Think of it this way. Again, some of you guys that are really crazy smart out there like Lawrence Petros to watch the show, you have a more technically correct answer, but this answer I think will make sense to most players. What I want you to picture is two guitar cables, right, unplugged right now. You're plugging them in the AV box, right? And so they have essentially, I want to say, a load against them. There's something, when you switch one signal off and the other one on, it's like they're humming. The buzz you're getting is because it's like no different than if the cable was just sitting on the floor humming. That's the way I want you to picture it. So what's great about AV box like this, they have a little transformer in there that puts a load against that cable. I'm sure that technically is not 100% accurate the way I'm explaining it, but I think listening to what I said makes sense to you guys. So my answer to you is definitely get a better AV box. Morley does have one. I think it's $200. When I bought this, it was $100. So I can't imagine it's gotten much more expensive than that. But do yourself a favor. Seriously, I've tried every AV box. There's nothing better than this one for the price that I've seen. In fact, what I love about it, it doesn't take any power because there's no LED switches on it. You don't need any power. Just plug it in. And it weighs about 6,000 pounds. It's heavy. Like if it's heavy. So there you go. It's funny that it was right there. Okay, so I'm glad we answered that question. Next question is from Degaify. Says, have traditionalists kept the industry stagnant? So that's a good question. Basically, the core of the question is, has players who basically who like everything the way it was kept this industry stagnant? Yes. That would be exactly the way I would say that, is that essentially guitar players who think that Fender got it right the first guitar and Gibson got it right the first guitar and the Tube Screamer's first pedal was the best pedal and the first Marshall ever made was the right Marshall. Yes, it makes it almost impossible for an industry to adapt and grow as much as it tries because a lot of products fail. However, there is something that is, here is my theory of why it is that way. So you know. Okay, so I will tell you this. I've said this before on a live show, so I hate repeating myself, but I'm pretty sure it's been a year since I've said this, so I'll repeat it again. I have a theory, and it goes something like this. We love the albums, the music, and that's what starts the gear journey when you're trying to be, when you're a musician, right? So you that's what starts a lot of us as players. We hear music and we start playing. Some of us see rock stars and want to play visually, but a lot of us, it's audible. You're like, I love music. I want to make music. Anyways, the reason why I say that is because when you listen to a great album that you love back in the day, I like to think of it as like having a great meal from a great chef. You go, hey, I love the meal. I want to recreate it at home. What ingredients did you use? And he says, I use these tomatoes, organic tomatoes, and I use these avocados, and I use this is how long I saute everything. And so you write all that down, how they do it, the ingredients, the style, and you replicate the meal. So essentially, that's what's happened is that those ingredients, those vintage guitars, those vintage amps, those vintage pedals, they're in these forever iconic albums that are always going to be sought after. So it's hard to want the new gear. And then the real problem is, well, you could argue, well, in new music, we're using new gear like Axe effects. So is that what people use? It's possible. Like I said, I don't know. If you're, how about this? If you're under 20 and that watch the show, because I know there's a lot of you guys, because I see the demographics on YouTube, you can weigh on that. Tell me. You tell me. So, Andrew Stevens, hold on a second. I don't want to jump to that one until I make sure I grab another one real quick. How are we doing on time? We're going to run a little over. Okay, hold on a second. And okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, the next one is Andrew Stevens says, sharpen my axe on a Harley Benton CS24. I already talked about it at the beginning, Andrew, so hopefully you just refer to that on the replay. Thank you for the super chat. I just want to keep it moving. Raymond says, ever used a THR Yamaha to record through a USB? I have not. The THR 10 is, I tried to buy a THR 10. I think I talked about this and I got frustrated because it was like every store, I'm frustrated. Every store has one. They have the black one, or they have the green one, or the tan one, and I want to hear all three and try to figure out which one I want. You know what I mean? It's tough. I thought I wanted the tan when I played it, and then I go, maybe I don't. So now I'm thinking I want the black one. This has been a weird thing. So every store stocks one. Yeah, well, here's the thing, man. Try to figure out how to get your dealers to stock more than one of the three versions of your amp. That's weird. So there you go. DJ Kuzmik says, maybe it's Cosmic. That would make sense. M-I-K, Mick. DJ Cosmic. Sorry, buddy. Any thoughts on the SX liquids sold by Rondo Music? Ever heard of them? They look so weird. Kind of want to buy one just for the three P90s. I don't know that particular model of SX with an S and an X, Sam X-Ray. I have owned SX instruments before from Rondo Music. Rondo Music to me is Harley Benton before Harley Benton. In other words, every time somebody talks about Harley Benton, I always remind them of Aguilar and SX from Rondo Music here in the United States. If you live in the United States, they sell amazing stuff, just as good as Harley Benton. Same price points, same stuff. Pick your poison. So yes, I like the stuff. Funny, I can actually put SX in a strange category in my life, which is I had a mini P-Bass copy from them and loved it, sold it, and bought a Fender mini P-Bass, a rare one that they only made for a couple years, and regretted it and sold that one because I really should have kept the SX, and SX stops making that mini P-Bass. So there you go. I actually liked it more than the Fender it was copying. Craig says, hey, thank you, coffee. Sweet. Sometimes coffee is better than beer on behalf of an annoying customers everywhere. Yeah, you know what? Customers aren't annoying when they're customers. I never really said it that way, but I have a friend who said it that way, and I thought it was a great way of saying it. So, like I said, I've learned to figure out how to love everyone who's ever supported you. That's the way you have to think. As a business person, that's the best attitude you can try to figure out how to adopt. Same thing as a YouTuber. Anyone supports you in any way, you better figure out a way to love them, even if they're difficult. Because the worst customer is better than no customer. That is honest. That is legit. It sounds like I'm just being nice, and it's not. You can ask anyone who's ever almost lost a business. They will tell you exactly what I'm saying. The worst customer is better than no customer. Saxy Calzone says Fender versus Goto versus Wilkinson for Strat trims. I like Goto a lot. Somebody asked me what my favorite tremolo was, and it is the Goto tremolo that's in the Ibanez Sz. I really like it. I think it's the Goto S10, something 10, could be. It doesn't matter. I really like it. Wilkinson, I like Trev Wilkinson a lot, him personally, and I think his bridge is really cool. But personally speaking, I think I like Goto trims the most. I don't know, just the way they feel and the way they look aesthetically. But I've never really had a personal opinion about any three to remove or swap any of the three. So what I can tell you is all my Strats have Strat trims in them. All of my Ibanez's that have Gotos. My Dan Electros have Wilkinson in them. They have Wilkinsons. I haven't yanked any of those tremolos out to change it. It's usually if I'm changing a tremolo out, it's some other off-brand thing that's something weird. So, Bill Thornton, man. Bill, it's good to hear you. It's good to talk to you, but you gave me the hardest question. I can already tell. Any common cures for neck dive on SG guitars? Oh, my goodness. He's talking about an SG. And the problem is I don't play my SG. I've learned this. I don't play it with a strap. I sit and play because I'm a YouTuber and we sit and play. And when I go jam with buddies, I don't take Gibsons. I should take my SG. I just don't. But I think we've had this question before, and I suggested maybe a wider strap, and then some people said they don't work either. I looked at it. I just don't have a fix, man. It actually kept me up. Sorry. It actually kept me up one night thinking about that. Somebody asked that question before, trying to, man, if I could just come up with a great answer, I'd be so cool. And I couldn't. If you guys have a great answer, I'll tell you what, please put it in the comments down below. I'll make sure to give you credit for it. And you'll help Bill out as well. Looking at it, looks like they need to put some kind of extender piece on it. Shane M says, saw the photo of the Charvel DK24. What? This is one of those weird moments where I've realized my Instagram friends are now going to meet my YouTube friends. That's a weird thing when you have two friends from two different parts of your life meet. What are your initial thoughts? You mentioned previously you weren't impressed with the one you saw in the store. It's funny. I just want to say this, Shane. I posted a picture on Instagram the other day, and the only reason I posted it is another YouTuber who I trust told me that your YouTuber viewers and your Instagram viewers are generally not the same people and they don't cross over. So I thought, oh, this is cool. I'll start talking to them like they're different audiences, and then you hit me with. So yes, there was a picture of a Charvel DK24 in my Instagram feed, which is not supposed to be out yet. It's funny. I feel like I got caught. So, anyways, because I know you guys are gonna be like, where's the video now? And yes, I did mention previously that I tried one at the Tempe Guitar Center, and if it's still there, if anyone lives in Tempe and you go in there, you'll see what I'm talking about. Literally, it's a saw blade. It's the worst fret sprout I've seen on a guitar. I would put it in my top 20 worst I've ever seen in my life. So that really put me off. And then, so you know what happened, this is what happened, Shane. So the story goes like this. When I was in Germany, when I got to play the Rockin' 1000, which is where 1,000 musicians played in front of 26,000 musicians, which was a pretty cool thing to happen, especially when I didn't know what was happening until that week. You're like, wow, I'm going to do what? It's like on Monday, you're like, next Sunday, you're playing in front of 26,000 people. And you're like, what? That's crazy. This is going to be fun. Ibanez had provided guitars for the YouTubers as so we'd have for the event, right? So they were like, hey, we have guitars for you guys, because they knew a lot of us didn't have guitars. Me being an Ibanez AZ lover, I picked out the most expensive AZ they had of all the guitars. In fact, they did it before neither YouTuber had a shot. I grabbed the one, and it was like a $2,700 street price guitar. And then what happened was I was playing with it all week, and I really liked it, but I knew that because I already had bought an AZ before when I was overseas, I knew that if I asked Ibanez to sell it to me, I knew that the deal was not going to be that awesome. And so I was like, okay, and that's important because that guitar is expensive. So this is the reason why the story is important. So I wanted the guitar. It's a very long story. It's probably not that interesting, but obviously it ended with me buying the guitar. They did give me a deal. It was, when I say give me a deal, I mean, it ended up not really being that much of a deal because I had to pay, the taxes in Europe. And we talked about this before on the show. I said that I had to pay them, and somebody said, if you tell them at the airport. The reason I paid the taxes is because the only way they could sell me the guitar, they couldn't sell it to me. The only way they sell the guitar is the employee bought it, and then I bought it personally using PayPal Friends and Family from the employee. That was the only way we could make it so he had to pay the taxes. So I paid the taxes because he had to pay the taxes because he is a German citizen. So they were just trying to accommodate me, in other words. Ibanez wasn't set up to sell me this guitar, and I just wanted it. So what happened was, but really what I wanted, so you know, Shane, was I wanted the guitar that I played in front of 26,000 people, which is probably the only time and last time I've ever played in front of that many people. I wanted to have that guitar. I just thought it'd be, that would be great. So when we were there in Germany, I went into a music store called Sessions Music. Sessions. Wow. Sessions Music. And no SH. I don't know why I can't say it. Sessions. I give up. Anyways, they had the DK 24s. And I thought, okay, you know what? I can buy a DK 24 for less money as paying retail than I can buy this Ibanez, and if they give me a deal. And what ended up happening was the store, they only had two, and they were really heavy. In fact, I never seen one. And so that I really wanted one from that. But really what did it, so you know, Shane, was you guys. Every guitar I've reviewed in the last couple of weeks that has a roasted maple neck, every single person's brought up the DK24. So the DK24 is here because It was on the radar. It was something I wanted to talk about. Anyways, it was something I wanted to personally own. And I've never seen so many comments about one guitar. It seems like everybody seems to be using that as the benchmark for all these other roasted maple neck guitars. So I leaked it on Instagram. Sorry to bore you guys with that story, but that's why it's here. And the review should be about a week out. So there you go. I actually filmed it. I just haven't edited it. Grubby Mike says, I love the looks of the green Tajima, and I don't normally like green guitars. Oh, and here's a little something. Oh, I appreciate that, Grubby Mike. I very much. And the Tajima, yeah, the green one, so you guys know this one. The green one, I wanted the copper one really bad, or the black one. And when I decided to get one, I went on Reverb, and that there was a good deal on the green one, so I bought the green one. I got the green one for about $150 less than I could have got the black one for. So I got the green one to save $150. And that's a reality of it. Sometimes, hey, I like green. I like the color. And you know what? I didn't like black $150 more. Curtis P.S. says, does having the guitar volume low will have an impact on the pickups? Would hot pickups have more clarity at that volume than when maxed? That's a great question. Very good question. So the core of the question essentially is when you back the volume off on the guitar, if I'm understanding correctly, he's asking, would a hotter pickup have more clarity? Here's what I would think on that. And there's so much factored into this. But what I would say is what has more to do with the clarity of the pickup would be whether or not it has a treble bleed, like we talked about earlier, or the quality of the potentiometer, or the quality of the components, and the type of potentiometer, whether it's, what kind of potentiometer it is, whether it's linear or tapered. So that would probably be a huge part. So for instance, you definitely want like a tapered potentiometer, but nothing that I've noticed. How about that? Because I do that. If you notice, I back the volume knob a quarter turn back on most of the time when I'm playing guitar. If I'm not doing a video demo, I'm instinctively always have my volume knob quarter turn back. I know it's frustrating for people because when I hand my guitar to people when I'm playing live with somebody and they grab one of my guitars, they always like, what the heck's wrong with your guitar? And then they roll it forward and go, oh, what was that? And I go, yeah, I quarter turn it back. It's just the way I soften the attack. Because I play a lot of chords. I don't do solos. So there you go, Curtis. But maybe it'd be interesting to do a comparison. Or maybe somebody who's already done it. Maybe like John Segborn's done it. That guy does crazy stuff. So he might have done it. There's almost 800 of you guys. All right. Let's find a non-super chat question. And hold on. A lot of people, by the way, on the SG are talking about putting weights on the back of the guitar. That I've heard and I've seen it. I've seen somebody put some slugs in the cavity of the guitar. So it's funny. You guys are really focused on his heavy SG. Hopefully, Bill, they fixing your problem. Okay, show enough. Mad something. Regal says, hey Phil, what are your thoughts on upgrading speakers in a cheaper cab or buying an expensive cabinet? It's a great question. I really am for better speakers. I don't want to say expensive, right? Because that's not what it's about. It's because you can get good speakers non-expensively. Good speakers in a cheap cabinet, I find do better than a good cabinet with a cheap speaker in it. And the reason I say that is because it's a frustrating point, because I find that a lot of manufacturers do just that. They build you a nice cabinet and then they stick a cheaper speaker in it. It drives me crazy. So yeah, you can get a better quality speaker. So if the question is, what would you put the money into? I would put in my money into a better speaker into a cheaper cabinet. So now, that being said, cabinets make a huge part of the sound too. So, I mean, you have to factor that in. But in my experience, if I have a crappy cabinet and a good speaker versus a good cabinet and a crappy speaker, you see what I'm saying? I find that the good speaker always wins, especially when you're recording it. So, But again, that is not definitive of anything. That's just a generalization that I found to be accurate. Chuck M Music says, "Hey Phil, I have a Squier PJ bass with active pickups that are kind of noisy. Any suggestion on vintage sounding passive pickups? Tip on the build." Yeah, so it's interesting. The active. So to explain it to you, Chuck, your pickups aren't active. Your electronics are active on that bass. So your pickups are passive. The noise is probably coming from those crappy active electronics, because you got to think of it this way: it's a cheap active system in the Squier, right? Trying to hit a price point. Anytime somebody's trying to hit a price point, they're going to do some squirrely stuff. So, Chuck, what I would do first, since you probably don't like the active and you're already talking about putting in some great sounding passive pickups, gut the active electronics out of that unit, take that assembly out of there, and put in new passive electronics, passive, electronics, and keep the original pickups and see what happens. So that's my first inkling. And then from there, because that's pretty straightforward on a PGA bass, right? Just do that. And then if you go, wow, this is it, my problems are solved, you're good. And if not, then to go next to a new set of pickups. So there you go. And then pickups, their pickups are your oyster when it comes to pickups. There's so many good choices. I like Bartolini's a lot. I use those a lot in my instruments. I like the some people like the Seymour Duncan bass pickups. I like them pretty good. I'm not a huge fan. In other words, when I say that, I love all the ones I've installed in people's guitar or basses. Happy with them. I just never put them in mine because I use Bartolini's a lot. And I'm looking around. And of course, Fender pickups. I like the Fender pickups a lot. I use those as well. So, but what's great is, we were talking about used gear. Don't forget, man, always look at used pickups. What a great way to save some cash and get something cool. Or try to find those odd brand, smaller brand pickups too. They're always kind of nice. But at first, I would definitely gut the active electronics and go passive electronics and see what happens. So I have a feeling that will solve a lot of your problems. Okay. Okay, and on that note, even though there's 800 of you, I think we're going to have to call it, but I'm going to try to do 2 quick questions before we go. I love you guys' internal stuff. I'm sure when you guys watch the replay on this and you read the comments, they're hilarious. Sometimes I've read them just because you guys just have the greatest conversations back and forth. Oh, Keith H said, "Is it a good idea to tune your guitar down if you're not playing for a while?" I don't. You know what I mean? Acoustic guitars, maybe. Acoustic guitars are much different than electrics. Maybe. I would probably do that. I don't. So that is the only thing I can tell you. I'm not saying it's not a good idea or a good idea. I can only tell you what I do. I don't tune down any of my instruments just because they sit for long periods of time. I had no issues with them holding tension. So, yeah, and I have no problems. Guitars hanging on the walls, all the stuff I hear about. I don't have any trouble with any of that stuff. So, but the question is it a good idea? I don't know. I don't think you're going to hurt it either way. How about that? And then probably because later when this replays, there'll be a bunch of people right now going, "Oh, well, I had a neck twist or I had this happen." I've seen everything happen regardless of the circumstances. It's almost like the guitar is going to, in most cases, the guitar, if it's not a good piece of wood, it's going to do weird stuff, and there's just no way to save that or not. So, okay, and then we're looking for the last question. Let me make sure that there's not a super chat I missed. Chuck was the last one. Oh, see, there's a couple real quick. Okay, and we got Bill just did a beer for me. Thanks for your help. I did nothing. That's great. You guys gave Bill 1,000 suggestions, and I get a beer. This is the best gig ever. Thank you guys so much. I'll be back next week. You guys can answer all your own questions. I'll drink. How about next week? I drink a beer for the hour, and you guys answer each other's questions. Literally could go down to the Guinness Book of World Records. Best job ever. Reggie, hey Reggie, you're always at the end of the show. You're always doing stuff. I love it, man. Reggie says, I had to work late too. Have a beer on me. Reggie's quest to make me an alcoholic is, of course, in play. So I appreciate it, Reggie. I mean, no sarcasm, man. That's really cool. Thank you for the hookup. Patient Zero says Squire Starcaster or Fender Modern Starcaster. Fender Modern Starcaster. So which one would I pick? The Squire Starcaster or the Fender Modern Starcaster? You know, Patient Zero, this is the tough part because, you know, I don't want to do a cop-out thing. Instinctively, I just want to suggest Fender because it's Fender over Squire. But realistically, here's the trick. If you get to touch them, just touch them and the best one wins. Don't use the brand as the qualifier. Without touching them, unfortunately, sometimes you got to rely on maybe the quality of the higher end brand and components and stuff. But I don't know. I wish I had some experience with either one. I could tell you. Right now, it would just be me guessing randomly, and that's not fair to you. So I'll tell you what, buddy. Hopefully, if anyone has that instrument, they can put in the comments, you know, which one they like better. I definitely like Squires, and I definitely like Fenders. I have both. Obviously, I buy more Fenders than Squires. A lot of that's branding. You know what I mean? Vans is the Vans hat. I mean, branding is branding. But, I mean, I don't want to be just like a brand dude. So, and on that note, I think we're going to call it so we can all start our weekends. Of course, I want to do a quick shout out to the patrons that make the channel happen every week. And they are the live show support crew. And the new one is F Crew, like Motley Crue, but F Crew. James Biles, Lawrence Petros, Rob, Martha, David Foy, Blake Bean, Derek Miller, Gene Graham, Michael Mooney, Alizdar McLeod, Bruce Collins, Andy Dennis, Gary Phillips, Sam Oram, Chief Squatch, music guitarist, Bob Crosley, Todd Flowers, Tim Farnsworth, Zesty Basil Pizza, Greg Peterson, Dennis Prescott, Craig Parker, Lonnie Hoke, Joseph McCarthy, Anthony Desposito, Brian Stewart, Kermit Jackson, Tim Camacho, Paul Ostrike, Michael Lindler, Jonathan Pickering, Bob Pickwode, Lewis and Alvaro, Chris at the Guitar Pit, check out his channel, Jeff Howes, BV Ninja, Zachary Rowe, Justin Mabe, and Jeff Thompson. They, amongst other patrons, and you guys support the channel every week, so we can hang out every Friday. I appreciate it. It's a cool gig. I'm very lucky to have it, and thank you so much, especially with almost 800 of you guys. That was a pretty cool episode, and I'm going to index it, like I said, and we covered all my announcements. So on that note, I will leave you for next week. Keep in mind what I said about the whole answering questions about videos I did that week on the live show. That would be great. And also, I think we'll have a cool giveaway maybe next week. Actually, we will. How about that? I won't even tease it. We have a cool little giveaway next week. So we'll do that as well. And on that note, I will let you guys go. And until next week, thanks for your time and know your gear.